says a lot of the security around NRG Stadium will be for USA Radio News. I'm Jules McKinney.
Broadcasting live from WVBF 1530 AM, it's Stand Up Strong with Ed and Chuck. Covering local and national news, current events in Brockton and Plymouth County, Massachusetts, the United States, planet Earth, and the soon-to-be Mars colony. Now here are those two crazy Brockton guys who are still allowed to operate automobiles and heavy equipment. Ed Miller and Chuck Blanchette. Call in now at 508-822-1106, and you can catch us streaming online at hometowntalkradio.com.
Afternoon, Stand Up Strong, brothers and sisters. Yes, we are back again to bring you another fun-filled 2 hours, and then you have the rest of your life after the show. Well, we have a lot happening around.
Tons of things happening.
I can't believe it. We've had, well, actually, let's stay local right now. The City of Brockton lost a $4 million discrimination suit. And now they're talking to the person who sued them to find out if they would settle and not appeal it. But, I want to bring that up. I mean, look, any city you go to, first of all, we have to get this out there. Any town, any city you go to, have their old family club. That's what I like to call it.
The good old boys.
The good old family. Not good old boys. Is
like the family, like a mafioso thing?
Sometimes you wonder if the thing, and I sound a little hoarse today. I've had a bad cold all week, but I was not going to take today off.
That's right.
We have great people calling in. It's going to be a great show. I'm sorry I sound again like I smoked 40 packs of cigarettes, but I couldn't miss today. It was just so much going on. So, but when I go back to the old family club, it's just there. They're going to try to hire people that they know. But you want to know something? Yes, it is their fault. I railed against this. I'm saying, look, you're not being inclusive. You're not going out to other people. You're only helping people who you know for 40 years. And as we have a call, one we asked. The other thing we want to talk about today is the fiduciary law that Donald Trump decided to get rid of.
Hey, you're on the air with Ed and Chuck.
Hey, good afternoon. This is Denise Donahue from Rockland, Massachusetts. How are you?
Good.
Denise, how are you doing? Well, Denise, I saw your comment on our Facebook page and when I was talking about, actually, I just mentioned the fiduciary law that now it was a year ago that Obama put it in, President Obama, where pretty much it says people who do investment have to look out for their clients instead of their own best interest in making money. Is that what the fiduciary law, I mean, I know I generalized it, but that is basically what it does.
Yes, that is correct. A fiduciary is required to act in the best interest of their client, to put client interest above their own. So what they're trying to do is change the industry, and the ERISA laws that govern the fiduciary rules are over 40 years old. They're outdated, so I agree that they need to be updated, but I think they were putting the cart before the horse in putting this out a year or two ago, saying we're going to change the Department of Labor ruling, and it scared a lot of financial professionals in the industry. A lot of people, the majority of financial advisors, put their clients' interests first.
Yes, and
there
you
are those
mentioned that.
Strictly, as in other businesses like used car salesmen, no offense, real estate brokers, they're out there to earn commissions. And it's been a standard practice for many years in the financial industry that, stockbrokers, as they're known, are just there to earn commissions off their clients. And it's scaring the industry because it could take away businesses as they've known it. And a lot of people don't necessarily want to rise to the standard of the fiduciary. So knowing that, they keep pushing back this rule. It's been years that they've been mentioning it to us in the industry, and it's been making a lot of advisors running scared, trying to push their clients into more fee-based investment assets, which isn't always in the best interest of the client. Now they're putting a stop to it and making people step back and go, okay, what's been going on in my investments all these years? Did they really have my best interests at heart? So it's kind of turning the tables on the industry as a whole, and I think people just need to step back, people in the industry, that is, and wait to see what the official ruling is going to be before they start changing anything that they're doing for their clients.
Well, it's a 180-day delay on this, and the whatever group has to look at it, they say, is it in the interest of the administration, or does it follow the administration's outlook? Well, I'm sorry. To me, this administration, the president is a globalist. As much as he ran against globalists, I think he'd be more interested in gaining fees. Now, the big banks, we always hear the same three, Wells Fargo, which we heard what they did.
Milton Strumpf.
And we had Goldman Sachs, and we have my favorite, Jamie Dimon, who should be wearing a orange jumpsuit, not a slick Italian suit.
He was my boss years ago at Smith Barney. I agree with you.
Okay, so you know him, and he was the one they brought in to get to work with to get rid of this law. No, look. You go out there, you do investments, and you do, like you said, the used car salesman. We created laws for that because it's not for the 95% of people who are doing the right thing. It's the 5% who are really screwing over people. And Jamie Dimon and his friends, they're saying because they can't collect the fees. Now, is it like losing $17 billion, I read somewhere, where they're not gaining in fees per year? Is that correct?
That's what they're afraid of, is if these brokerage firms have their advisors that have to switch over to a fee-based investment advice versus commissions, they are going to stand to lose a lot of money because there are brokers that charge commissions for each and every transaction that a client does, whereas a fee-based program might be a better thing for them. But the fear is if they if they enforce these rules as they are, it's going to switch a lot of investors from a commission basis, and a commission basis might be great for someone who does one transaction a year. Why should they pay a 1 or 2% fee on their assets for not a lot of transactions? But what the fear is, it's going to price middle and lower investors out of the market. They're not going to be able to afford a fee based on the asset level that they have invested. So I think they really need to take a good hard look at this, and they came out with the Department of Labor ruling, as we refer to it, to protect investors. But now they're realizing that it may not be in the best interest of all these big wigs, and I think that's kind of why they put a halt to it. So, at the end of the day, you have to do what's right for if you're an investment professional, you have to do what's right for your client, and your own interests come second. That should just be up to each individual brokerage house to make sure that their advisors are doing that. I think for the big government to come in and try and change everything, it's like a blanket ruling like they try and do with everything, and that doesn't always work. And that's why they've stalled it. This is like the umpteenth time where it was going to, we were going to get news about it in November, and then it was going to be now, and now it might be April, because they don't really know. It's like instead of going from A to Z, they go to A and they stop at D and they go, let's try this, and it doesn't always work. So, I think they just need to be careful, and big business and, some of these big wigs in Washington are looking out for themselves still, and I thought it was time for that to change, but we shall see.
Yeah, but don't we need laws like this? Because
we certainly do.
Because here's the thing. We have laws against breaking and entering, but not everybody breaking it. The only thing I'm ever going to break into is my own house when I lost my keys again for the 17th time.
Yeah.
And I wasn't smart enough to hide them anywhere else.
That's right.
But I'm not going to go to jail for breaking and entering because I'm not going to commit it. You're not going to go or get in trouble for giving your clients bad advice because you don't do that. But don't we need these laws for unfortunately, the Jamie Dimons and the
Milton Strumpfs
of the world? And I just go on that because we talked about that. 5,000 people lost their jobs, and maybe they should, maybe they shouldn't. But these are just people who either do what we say or we're going to fire you. Where Milton Strumpfs and I forget the woman's name.
Yeah, the woman who
ran it, walk away with like hundreds of millions of dollars.
Some retirement money.
Who are the ones who caused it? Isn't this why we need laws like the fiduciary law?
I agree with you. They certainly do need to put that in place, but I don't think they've worked out all the kinks and figured it all out first. So they came out, guns blazing to the brokerage industry saying we're going to be doing all these things, and it kind of scared people. But they haven't yet made it clear as to what they should do. And as I mentioned before, just like in any industry, it's up to the industry or the firm or, the people in charge to make sure that their employees are doing the right thing. That's where it starts. But then that's like saying, these kids that get in trouble at school, it's up to their parents to teach them the right thing. So, that's never going to be fixed. But I agree with you. They definitely need to change and update the ERISA laws. They're over 40 years old. And now, especially with retirement plans, people work hard and save their money. They're relying on people to give them advice that's in their best interest. And I think by making everybody rise to the fiduciary standard of just that, doing what's right for your client, is what's best for everybody. I just don't think they've worked out all the kinks, and who knows if they ever will.
And one quick question before we have to go. And thank you for calling.
Thank you.
You brought a lot of information. Do you really think like the middle class like myself should be investing in the stock market? I can't watch it, and if I do watch it, I don't understand it. And remember back with my parents, my grandparents, they weren't in the stock markets. They had pensions. They had CDs where they could get 8% and keep on putting money in. When they retire, they can live off that. Is the stock market really the best place for people who invest their money? Well, we have to. There's no other place. But invest their money for the retirement programs?
Yeah, no. I don't think everyone should be in the stock market. If you can't afford to lose it, you shouldn't be in it. I'm just a blue-collar girl from Brockton. My father was a policeman. My mother stayed at home. She was a bus monitor. That was her biggest job, and I'm very proud of that. We had no money. My parents had CDs at the bank and savings accounts and got by just fine. But I think a lot of employers are offering these programs, these retirement plans, to their employees, and they're not getting good advice, these employees, on what to do with it. So they're investing money out of their paycheck into what they think is going to be a golden egg at the end of their retirement, and they have no idea what's going on in the interim. So I think this ruling is going to help ensure that people are protected, but I think the education begins at the beginning. It belongs with the employers saying, hey, here's a plan, and let's give you some information, and people being more vested and have more interest in their own money. But yeah, if you put it under the mattress or keep it in the bank is always your best bet. There is money to be made in the market, but you have to have some education and you have to have trust in your advisor. And I think this DOL ruling is going to help, ensure that people are being watched for better.
Okay, well, I appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, you guys are great.
No, thank you very much.
Call in anytime.
Thanks. Take care, guys. Good luck.
Bye, thanks.
Bye.
And as I mentioned, I don't think the stock market, I don't like 401ks. I can't control it, and I've seen people lose everything. To me, 401ks were really created to overinflate the value of the stock of companies where CEOs and senior executives could make money on what they have invested. But we've seen it time and time again, whether it be with Bank of New England or Enron, where people had hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in their 401ks and lost it all. And where are they going to go? Where a CD, if they put it in a CD, way back in the day before Reagan decided to screw everything up, would make 8% or 10% of what they have, and they could pull it out slowly but surely. Plus what they have in their pension funds. Yes, I'm sounding like a frog again. So why don't you talk a little, Chuck, so I can.
For me, although I'll be turning 35, for 15 years I was in the restaurant business, where I didn't really have the option of putting money into a 401k, but I've had retail jobs. I worked at a medical facility. That's probably when I realized that 401k even existed, like early 2000s. And I had money in there, but I never really had a good solid job to even, put the money into it. So it's
living
kind of
paycheck to paycheck.
Paycheck to paycheck, and it's out of my league. But now, back to retail, back having a steady job, and I've been putting money into my 401k, and it's a good company. But I too, even though now just learning about it, am kind of concerned.
Yeah, you might want to find out where the best thing is. Advice I give to people, just what I've seen. Look, I am not an investment.
Right.
Please. Don't put it all in one basket. Don't throw it all in your one company. I work for a company called Car Temps when I do car rentals. And my regional manager and I were talking, and he's saying, yeah, look what we're doing because we've been this, and he's making all this money. And I know someone from Bank of New England who had $750,000 and lost it all. I told him to split it up. He did, and when the company went under, he didn't lose anything. So don't put it all in the same basket.
All right, we have another caller. You're live with Ed and Chuck on WVBF.
Thank God for that. I thought I lost you on the computer, but here I am on the phone.
Oh, there you
All
go.
right.
How's it doing, Democratic Cowboy?
Oh, I'm telling you, tomorrow's a bet. If I get over it tomorrow. Did you hear the news? I've been monitoring on the phone.
I heard they suspended Brady
I've
for
been
another
monitoring on
game.
the computer. Did you hear the news? I checked all the dates for Boston Garden for WWE,
Oh, yeah?
All right.
and there's nothing.
Wow.
Nothing. Ryan, are you listening? I think you won the war.
Yeah, well, everybody's going to be... I don't think anybody's going to be watching anything else but the Super Bowl, especially...
Oh, I'm telling you, there's nothing, no Raw, no SmackDown, no live shows, nothing for the Garden all the way from tomorrow all the way to next fall.
Wow, yeah, well...
Ryan is the only wrestler in this area, top rope reign supreme.
Yep.
Hey, Cowboy, earlier we were talking about the $4 million lawsuit that someone won
Brockton.
in Brockton. What do you think about that?
What do I think about that lawsuit?
Yeah.
Well, it's terrible. I had to pay some money. Yeah, I had to pay. Every taxpayer pays that. You know what I mean? It's terrible. It's not right. It's not right. Somebody makes a mistake, slanderous assault, and you gotta watch what you say.
That's true.
Somebody, they're protesting about it. And a long time ago, when I tried to get on the city, I got very upset. I couldn't get on the city. Mayor Specker wouldn't hire me, and I wanted the rubbish department so bad.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to school and the MBTA Training Act, and I went to school. I couldn't get on the city afterwards or landscaping to take care of the woods of Brockton and everything back then. I know what they're going through. I really do. There's some kind of thing here. It was always veterans first, in Brockton. I'm not knocking the vets because my dad was one, and the thing is that you really I couldn't get any jobs out of myself. So good luck to him. It was back in the days of Mayor Crosby and Alvin Jack Sims, and I couldn't get on the city.
Well, that was your problem then. It was the wrong time.
Yeah. I was 21, 22 years old, and all I got was shoe shop in Brockton. I had to work my way into the shoe shop in Brockton. Now that I'm retired and, retirement fund and Social Security, I worry every day about Mr. Trump. I know he won't, maybe he won't hurt me, but I worry every day that this Trump guy is. I'm telling you, I told Ron Van Dam 4 years ago that he was going to get in.
Yeah.
I had a voice tell me, a mental voice tell me that 4 years ago that this Trump would go in there. And that was 4 years ago.
All right, we're going to have to take a break, Cowboy, but we're glad you called in. Call in again and keep on listening because we have a lot of people on today.
I'm psyched about March 10th. I'm psyched. Wait till I tell Ryan March 10th.
Absolutely.
All right.
It's great. No shows, no WWE shows at all. I checked the whole computer. I checked the Wrestle Network and everything. There's nothing.
All right. Well, thank you for calling in, Cowboy. And keep on listening. We're going to take a quick break right now, and our first guest coming up, calling in, will be Alex Bezanson, who is running for state rep in the Abington, Whitman, East Bridgewater area. Stick around. We'll be right back after this.
Considering building a new home, adding an addition, or renovating your existing house? BTA Building and Remodeling of Abington can save you time, money, and frustration. BTA is a team of highly skilled professionals who understand just how important your project is to you. From site-built homes, custom modular homes, to in-law suites and additions, they'll treat your project with the time and effort it takes to do the job right. Before you choose a builder, you owe it to yourself to visit btadevelopment.com and learn more.
Check it out, it's the Terminator. Hey, when'd you get back, huh?
Did you have to shoot anyone?
Why are you so distant? Are you not happy to see me?
So what's the deal? You gonna get a job now or what?
Why are you being so jumpy? Put all that stuff behind you, okay?
No one knows what it's like to come back from Iraq or Afghanistan unless they were there. Join other veterans at communityofveterans.org because we know where you're coming from. Brought to you by Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America and the Ad Council.
Do you have cast iron furniture, metal fences, or custom-made aluminum furniture that is still usable but needs a little TLC and extra care? Then you need someone with a great reputation and over 32 years in the welding business. You need All Weather Welding Company. Based out of Southeastern, Peter Michelson of All Weather Welding Company has the know-how and has worked on projects such as the Pavilion in Boston, the Dunkin' Donuts Warehouse, the Food Service Cisco, the Xfinity Performing Arts Center, as well as local businesses and homes throughout the South Shore. They specialize in rims, chairs, custom-made aluminum furniture, metal gates, window grates, and so much more. All Weather Welding Company is the only certified portable welding service that is advertised in this area. No job is too small, and all his work is guaranteed. If you think it's broken, call All Weather Welding Company at 508-238-8595. That's 508-238-8595. 8595. Mention this ad and receive a free welding rod.
Hi, this is Jim Larkin. Hope you can join me every Sunday from noon to 2 o'clock here on WVBF, The Sounds of the Emerald Isle. We'll have some great Irish music, some folk, traditional, country, and contemporary, and sometimes some live singers in the studio. And to make you laugh, some Irish comedy. That's Sundays from noon to 2 right here on WVBF, 1530 Taunton, Middleborough, and on the internet at hometowntalkradio.com.
1530 WVBF Talk Radio.
Okay, we're back. You're listening to Stand Up Strong with Ed and Chuck. And going back to the lawsuit, it was someone who applied. His name was, he's a Brockton resident, Russell Lopes, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, sued the city because he felt he was qualified. And one of the things I got from the article is that the person needed a CDL license, and the person who got the job didn't have it.
So he didn't have it. Did he have to go get it, though?
I think he would have to get it, yeah.
But he got the job before even having it, so he was an unqualified person who was hired.
Excuse me, that's what it sounds like.
That's unfair.
And look, he went to a court of law, and they found it. But going back to, well, this is the old family club. This is what every town and city has. You know, if you're upset about the people who are running your government, you have to go up there and run against them or get involved. I bring this up time and time again that I've seen strong union people who, either work for the city or they individually work. And what they do is they vote for the most virulent anti-union person because they went to high school with them 30 years ago. Or there was the kid's sports coach. You can't choose your government on that. We get a call right now. Let's go get that.
You're on the air with Stand Up Strong and WVBF.
This is Alex Bezanson.
Hey, Alex. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. We have.
How long do I have before we're going live?
Well, we're on the air right now.
We're live now.
Okay. We're gonna be up going. How long can you stay on the air? We'll keep you on right up to about 4 o'clock, unless you have something. More people's hands to shake and see.
I do.
Okay.
But yeah, that should work.
Okay. When you have to leave, just let us know. We appreciate you calling in. And for people who don't know, Alex Bezanson, resident of Abington, announced that he's running for state representative in, now is it the 11th Plymouth District?
7th Plymouth District, Abington, Whitman, and East Bridgewater.
Okay, at least I got the towns right
there
when I
go.
announced it before. And so the 7th Plymouth. Now, is that going to be an open seat?
Well, right now it is not an open seat. But we're hearing rumors that he may be taking a position with the Trump organization. We're hearing rumors he may run for another seat. There's all kinds of rumors out there. But I announced on January 24th that I am running for the seat in 2018. If anything opens up before then obviously I'll be a candidate for that too. Okay. But right now we're planning on a 1.5-year campaign.
And now, what made you decide to take the leap into running for office?
Well, as you know, I am a selectman, or you may not know, but I am a selectman in the town of Abington. And I think I've done some pretty good things since I've been on the Board of Selectmen, and I just think I could do even better things on the state level.
And what are the things that you think we need to improve on or start that you want to work on right off the bat?
Well, Shortly after I was elected selectman, I found out about how bad the opioid epidemic is, and I held a few meetings, and we formed the Abington Substance Abuse Coalition, and that's a nonprofit that we help out, families that need resources. We bring speakers into the schools for early education. I'd like to continue that on Beacon Hill with even more early education and more education for our young athletes, because when there's injuries there, that's where a lot of the opioid abuse starts, is with doctor prescriptions for young athletes. So I'd like to continue that. I think me being a Democrat and, my experience as a selectman and on the conservation for 22 years, I know a lot of people. I know a lot of the players on Beacon Hill. I think I could be more effective than the current state rep. He seems to have difficulties with both parties up there. So those are a few of the things. I will be meeting with all the town managers, police chiefs, fire chiefs, school superintendents, librarians from all three towns, and find out what their needs are.
Okay. And now you mentioned, go back to the opioid epidemic. Now the governor made huge cuts into funding for that, as much as when he ran on it, he said he was going to be for it and he was going to help out. He really hasn't kept his word in that way. How would you be going up there and fighting against that, or working to get the funding? How would you feel you get the funding?
Well, I definitely think we need the funding back. He cut a lot of the funding for just down in this area, down the South Shore and Cape Cod. But I'd also like more funding for more education. I strongly believe that the root of this problem is early education. We used to have the DARE program. Some people say that worked, it didn't work. I'm not sure if that's what we need, but we need a state-backed, a state-funded program for all the schools that can teach these kids. The problem is a lot of these young kids in school now, it's their parents that are the drug addicts.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. It's not like, when I was a kid, our parents weren't drug addicts like that. And today, that's who it is. I mean, we have people in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s dying of drug overdoses. And it's leaving a lot of these kids not knowing what to do or where to go. So I really think the root of the problem is early education. And I think by doing early education, and if we can stop some of this, I think it will free up resources in towns to do other things. Abington, for example, I'm waiting for the figures now, but I'll bet most of our calls, or a good portion of our police and fire calls, are drug-related.
Now, I just recently saw that, and I'm from Brockton, and you kind of don't hear a lot about Abington, but I saw in the paper that just recently they arrested a man who had 30 grams of heroin and fentanyl. It was either yesterday or the day before.
Yesterday, I think it was.
And it's amazing because we, or in Brockton, or me personally, I don't catch a lot of this unless I'm really thumbing through the paper. That I know a bunch of people who are from Abington. I used to work for the schools part-time in 2008, and those were all great kids. And you mentioned how nowadays parents are the ones who have the drug problem. I graduated myself in 2000 from Brockton High, and now being 34, I can see what you're saying, because a lot of the people who I went to school with have, friends or family themselves who have passed, and we're all in the same age bracket, so you can see the generational kind of gap.
Correct. My son's 34 years old, and I think since he graduated from high school, he's had 6 of his friends die of drug overdose.
Yeah, me as well. Yep, very, very sad.
It's very, very sad, and it's increasing every year. I mean, my wife and I are very involved with Teen Challenge in Brockton.
Good.
And it was about 1,200 in 2014. It was 1,500 in 2015. 15, 14 and into 15. It's growing every year. It's not going down. It's going up, the number of overdoses. And, you know, we definitely need treatment, but if we do early education, we're not going to need to spend as much money on treatment. We're not going to need to spend as much money and resources with our police and fire out there fighting the drugs. So I strongly believe it's early education is the key, and that's one of my goals up in Beacon Hill.
And what do you think of some of the programs that we should be adopting in our school system that would stop, or at least try to stop, the opioid epidemic?
Well, Abington Substance Abuse Coalition has brought in several speakers into the schools. We have them scheduled to come in, and I think people that have been through it, I think they're good to go in and speak to the students about it. I think we need to bring doctors in there that have seen it. I think we need to bring the police, and luckily enough, Abington has just put on 2 school resource officers this year. We were lucky enough to get a grant to do that, and hopefully we have the money to continue doing that. But I think it's a combination of things. I think it's the police, the medical field, the teachers, the athletic directors. I think it should be mandatory that anyone that's going to play in high school athletics needs to go to a program or have us bring a program in and speak to them about the dangers of opioid abuse. Because, like I said, that's where a lot of it starts. I've talked to a lot of the guys that have graduated from Teen Challenge. And, you know, I sat and had dinner with one last week, and he got a full ride to college for football, injured his knee, and got hooked on painkillers.
Yeah.
And now he's going through the Teen Challenge program. So I think athletic directors, one way, teachers, nurses, the medical field, I think it's a combination of all.
You mentioned the DARE program originally, so that stands for Drug Abuse Resistance Education, and I went through that in elementary school, and then it kind of fizzled out, and then I know in Brockton they changed it to the GREAT program, which was Gang Resistance Education, and for me, I saw growing up those 2 programs that kind of changed as the needs changed. So I believe we talked to somebody on the show a couple of weeks ago about the GREAT program, which still kind of talks about drugs, but I think the needs are changing again, and we need to get back to more of a drug-based educational program. So that's good that you have some speakers go in there. I think the experience that people have and then what their story can help paint a picture and show them that, you know, it's possible to get all these things accomplished without, you know, the use of a drug or substitute or alcohol.
Yeah, I don't think, ninth grader really wants to hear from me.
That's
you know,
true. Yeah, right.
They want to hear from their peers or people not too much older than them that have been through it. You know, I think it has more of an impact than an adult just lecturing them. So that's what we've been trying to do. We've had some of the guys from Teen Challenge do testimonies for us at our meetings. Corey Plaza down out of Taunton, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he was an athlete that, again, had surgery because of an injury and got hooked. And he started his own foundation, and he goes around speaking. We're actually bringing him into the Abington High School for 2 sessions in March, I believe. So I think it's more people like that than just, you know, like the DARE program, you had a police officer up there just lecturing the kids, and I'm not sure that's really going to work today. So I'm not sure exactly what we need to do, but, you know, we need to get people together and come up with some ideas that we think's going to work.
Another issue, and you know, we're having it in our area, and I know Abington in your area having it, is the funding that we're getting for both police and fire department. You know, public safety is where it all starts, and you know, we on one aspect we have people complaining about taxes, and on the other aspect they'll complain about we don't have enough police and fire. How are you going to work through that, and what are some of your ideas to be able to get more, especially fire department, and especially is what we need, and also police department.
Well, the Abington Fire Department right now, for the first time in a long time, is fully staffed. And we're just finishing up a grant for 2 firefighters that expired, I believe it was this month. So there's difficulty in funding those offices in the next budget. But, you know, that when I ran for selectman, that was one of the main things, was getting more police officers, more public safety. And I was very vocal about that. So we definitely need, that definitely has to be a priority with the state funding. It has to be. I mean, Abington especially, we have several crossroads going through Route 18, and we have a tremendous amount of police and fire calls. And it's not Abington residents. It's people going through with car accidents and things like that. The drug bust you just spoke of was right on Route 123, and that strip coming from Brockton into Abington is the biggest area around for drug deals. We have to find the money somehow. There's just no excuse. We have to find the money to fund our police and fire. Abington Police is one of the lowest paid police officers in the area. We have officers leaving constantly to go to other towns that's paying more money. The selectmen now are negotiating. Hopefully, we'll be getting a new contract for the police, and you know, I'm all in favor of an increase in some benefits and pay. We have to bring the pay up. We have to bring the detail pay up. We have to make Abington, Whitman, East Bridgewater towns that other officers want to transfer into rather than transfer out. And it's very difficult when you have small towns like Abington, Whitman, and East Bridgewater. You know, all three have new schools. Abington School is going to be opening, so our tax rate's already high with that. But it has to be a priority. People, like you say, complain. No police officers, but they complain about the taxes. But, you know, it's getting to a dangerous point where we can't lose any more police officers. We have to fund it, and we have to bring their pay up so people want to stay here.
And one of the things is, and as we hear, and of course, if you're on social media, we only hear the bad things. Now, first, we do need law enforcement, because we do need law and order, because the opposite, which is chaos and disorder, is not something you want to live in. But the other thing is that it seems like there's also a protectionist amongst police officers where they'll pull in ranks and protect each other. Even though they're doing something wrong. And I'm saying that's very, very, very small compared to how many law enforcement we have. Is there anything that you have ideas that we can work where, you know, keeping the right officers that we need and having something out there where not having the officers that shouldn't be doing the job?
Well, I can't speak for anywhere else, but I don't believe there's any issues like that in Abington. I've been working very closely with some of the officers and talking to them, listening to their concerns, as well as the police chief. And I don't think there's anything like that's going on in here. Our officers are very good. They're working a tremendous amount of overtime. And when, you know, they may have issues between the selectman and the chief or whatever, but when they hit the street, they're 100% police officers for the town of Abington. So I don't see that at all.
Okay. And another question we were wondering is, now you're not elected, but you were elected. You've been hearing about the pay raise that they gave themselves. What would be your opinion on that?
Well, you're not the first one that's asked me that in the last week.
Yeah, believe me.
I have always said, well, first of all, I do believe that some of the raises were excessive. I don't think it should have been as much as it was. But I also don't think that you should vote on your own raise. if I were to vote in favor of that, and I don't think I would have voted in favor of this because some of them would, it was all lumped together, and some of them were excessive.
Excessive,
but
yeah.
I think if this legislature was voting for it, it should take effect in January of 2019. They should not be voting their own pay raise.
Yep.
Most of them will probably be reelected, but I've always been against anyone voting for their own pay raise, and I would have voted no for that.
Yeah, I had a couple of college professors who wanted us to grade ourselves, and it's probably the hardest thing ever.
Yeah. Well, with that is, I also say, in trying to play the devil's advocate, of people are just going automatically, no pay raise at all without thinking about it. You have to look at how Massachusetts is and also compare it to other states in the country. I mean, we have one of the best educational systems. We have good businesses here, well-paying jobs. We just see increases on minimum wage, and now if you're looking at the stats, you're starting to see money go into the economy where people are making more. I agree with you right on the point of it was excessive. Some were excessive, and they shouldn't vote their own pay raises. But when you look at some states like Kansas or Texas or Florida, where they're really starting to fail in almost everything, where we have the lowest percentage of teen pregnancy and dropouts, doesn't that deserve, as an playing devil advocate, at least getting a pay raise?
I'm not saying that they don't deserve a pay raise. I definitely think they deserve the pay raise. I just don't think they should be voting on their own pay raise. And they had a consulting firm that come in and suggested pay raises for all these offices. And, from what I'm told, they didn't raise it as high as the consultants suggested they did. But I just don't think it looks good, giving yourself a raise.
Right, happening right away, and that was the big issue. Well, it's already happened now. Would this have to be signed by the governor, or does it take effect? Does the Senate also have to vote on it?
Well, the governor vetoed it, and it was overridden.
Oh, and then they brought it back out. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so what are some of the things that you want to work on when you hit the ground running? You mentioned the opioid addiction. Is there anything else that you think in your area that you should be working on right away? Or people would come up to you and say, hey, this is a big issue, and you agree and you should be working on it?
Well, somebody reached out to me today about library funding, which is something that, people don't even think about. So, I'm going to look into that. I'm getting a lot of ideas from a lot of people, emails and phone calls, myself and my wife, about things that we should look into. I definitely want to look into the Chapter 70 money. I don't know when that was revised last, but I'm told it was, people have looked at it over the years. I don't know if Abington, Whitman, and East Bridgewater are getting their fair share, but I certainly want to look into that.
And can you explain what Chapter 70 money to people who don't know about?
The school funding.
Okay.
Most town budgets, my wife's on the finance committee here in Abington, and the school budget is 68% of the total town budget. I mean, that's an astronomical figure.
And then yet still, like, I know, the arts and things of that sort get cut. And I know the people who play sports need to pay those field fees.
They pay the field fees.
Yep.
I mean,
even the marching
paying
band
for school busing now.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean,
that's
and Abington's got a new school that's opening next September. $95 million school. So our taxes are up. I mean, it's a tough situation, but I think the state needs to review things like that, and we need a little more help from the state. The economy is starting to get better. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's more taxes going into the state, so we should be getting more funding in the local towns, and especially the small towns, the poorer towns. I mean, Abington, Whitman, and East Bridgewater are not rich towns.
Right.
They're working class towns, and people are working 2 or 3 jobs. and struggling to pay their mortgages and pay their taxes. I think we need to look at that, and I think towns like us need to get a little bit more than some of the other towns.
Okay. Well, thanks for calling in, and we're going to take a quick break right now, but we definitely want to have you on again, and let us know how it is going on the campaign trail and what you're hearing.
I will. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so
Thank you very much.
You were listening to Alex Bezanson, who's running for state rep in the 7th Plymouth District. That would be Abington, East Bridgewater, and Whitman.
Mm-hmm.
And just to let people know, he does advertise on this station, but he's someone who's really going to be, I think, a great rep if he wins.
He's a smart gentleman. Yeah. And, just recently he worked with Brockton, and they worked out a sewer agreement. So now Abington's sewer system is a little bit better.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
that helps out. So we're going to be right back after this. You're listening to Stand Up Strong with Ed and Chuck.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. It's kind of like an elephant is on my chest. I feel like I'm choking. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor, because even one attack is one too many.
I feel like a fish with no water.
Brought to you by the EPA and the Ad Council.
1530 WVBF Talk Radio.
Hi, this is Jim Larkin. Hope you can join me every Sunday from noon to 2 o'clock here on WVBF, the Sounds of the Emerald Isle. We'll have some great Irish music, some folk, traditional, country, and contemporary, and sometimes some live singers in the studio. And to make you laugh, some Irish comedy. That's Sundays from noon to 2 right here on WVBF, 1530 Taunton, Middleborough, and on the internet at hometowntalkradio.com.
Do you have cast iron furniture, metal fences, or custom-made aluminum furniture that is still usable but needs a little TLC and extra care? Then you need someone with a great reputation and over 32 years in the welding business. You need All Weather Welding Company. Based out of Southeastern, Peter Michelson of All Weather Welding Company has the know-how and has worked on projects such as the Pavilion in Boston, the Dunkin' Donuts Warehouse, the Food Service Cisco, the Xfinity Performing Arts Center, as well as local businesses and homes throughout the South Shore. They specialize in rims, chairs, custom-made aluminum furniture, metal gates, window grates, and so much more. All Weather Welding Company is the only certified portable welding service that is advertised in this area. No job is too small, and all his work is guaranteed. If you think it's broken, call All Weather Welding Company at 508-238-8595. That's 508-238-8595. Mention this ad and receive a free welding rod.
And we're back. You're listening to Stand Up Strong with Ed and Chuck. Hey, if you have a comment or you'd like to get involved in the conversation, just give us a call at 508-822-1106. And today you can call me anytime. Call me Cigarette Ed or Six Pack Ed. It sounds like I smoke 6 packs because it's cold.
Scat singing Ed.
And there we go. I think I do well on that. Another thing that our authoritarian leader has done is put on a ban. Now, some people call it the Muslim ban, where he's not allowing anybody who's a Muslim come into this country if he doesn't have any business in that country, even though the countries he didn't ban are where some of the terrorists are coming from. But I want to bring up something, and I want to go back in history a bit about this, if I could, if my voice will hold out for another few minutes. And it is a rant, and this is to all my Jewish, Irish, Asian, and Italian friends. When my family came over here, you didn't talk about us in polite society. We were Jewish people. Remember, those are the people who had to wear the hats to hide their horns. Now, luckily, I have a lot of hair, so I don't have to wear a hat because my hair will cover my horns. But that was things they said. The Italian people, They literally, to their faces, call them subhuman. Irish, you were lazy and you were drunks. And Asians, they put up a whole Asian Exclusion Act where they didn't want to bring women over, so the menial tasked laborers who were Chinese couldn't procreate, and then you would have more, and then they would become citizens. And this ban, to me, is not a Muslim ban. It's a religious ban. You aren't picking people out from a country. You're picking out people because you don't like their religion. And what made me start thinking about this is I was reading, I kind of called it on a blurb. But down in Texas, there's a synagogue, a Jewish synagogue, that's opened its doors to a Muslim mosque because some moron decided to burn it down.
Right.
And now, together, they are worshiping in their own religion. And it isn't one comes on, I thought maybe they'll do on a Tuesday, no, at the same time. Here's the problem. It's not Muslims. It's not Jews. It's not Christians. It's not Catholics. It's the damn people who are the leaders who are trying to get their way through religion. I honestly believe that.
And it's a flat out shame because we're all people, and then all the religions you just mentioned, they're all praying to the same guy, or girl, but the same person, and it's just a different way of looking at things, and
he has she has a wicked sense of humor because he created us with foibles, and we can do some foibles, and we can do some of the dumbest things, and I think he's just I think we're like a comic drama to him or her. But it's great that you can consider yourself a real American. I'm a real American, and I'm also Jewish. Chuck's a real American.
Just happen to be Catholic.
Yeah, he's Catholic. Years ago, though, what do they say? What do you remember the stories hearing, what they said about Catholics 40, 50, 70 years ago when Catholics came over here? Wasn't too nice. Okay, you don't have an answer to
no,
that.
I've got nothing.
Okay.
It wasn't too nice. Well, I wasn't around crickets. I wasn't around that far ago.
No, you're not Irish, but Irish immigrants used to say they used to swallow children whole.
Oh, it was really
that was a big thing. And once they were done swallowing children whole, they would go after adults. And this is what people who consider themselves real Americans thought.
And for all you who are watching at home, listening at home, Ed has some political-looking cartoons.
They printed up cartoons on what they said. And back now, one of the most insulting things is when they did Michelle Obama as an ape.
Oh.
Well, back in the day, in the turn of the last century, that's how they used to represent Irish Catholics in these cartoons. It's very interesting. It came from the Reform Broker. You go through it. He also has some great stuff about economics, a broker. But he went into that, and I thought it was very interesting on really reading when you're standing there with your assigned people and you're going, keep the immigrants out. Go back 100 years.
Yeah, where'd you come from?
And look at what they said about your grandparents and great-grandparents. My actually great-grandfather was a draft dodger. He came over here from Lithuania because in America was safer. He as a Jew in Lithuania, he was a Jew. In America, he was a Lithuanian. They wanted him to join the army, and this is after the army came in and destroyed the villages they lived in of Jews. And they still wanted him to join. So he came here, and he was the one who carried the ice blocks up the stairs of the tenement houses and took their jobs away because no real American wanted to apply for it. But his kids went to high school. His grandkids and great-grandkids got their bachelors and masters. And that's the American dream. So I'm going to have to let Chuck talk for about a minute because, again, I'm sounding like I just smoked a few cigarettes, and then we're going to go to commercial.
It's so funny. It's like I've growing up, I think I just grew up in a really good time because I didn't hear any of those things. And, I part Irish, part French, part Portuguese, English, I think. And my best friend is from Trinidad and Muslim faith, and we grew up and we were just the same thing. And we never really I just saw him down in Florida, and we were sitting at a bar, and he goes, "Look, I'm the only brown guy here." And I'm like, I didn't even notice. Right. But then that's the way we were kind of raised. So to see these things nowadays, I feel like we're going back in time, or they're starting to churn up something that they shouldn't have.
I hope it's just one of those times where you're going to take 2 steps back, take 4 steps forward. We've always seen change in this country. Hopefully it's always for the good. We are seeing this nationalistic fervor caused by the president and the people who support him. Hopefully we'll wake up. Yeah. Because as I always say, we vote on emotion, we don't vote on the logic. But sooner or later, logic will jump in.
Hold on to your seats for the rebirth of Commonwealth, I tell you.
There we go. We'll be right back after this.
You are listening to the voice of Southeastern Massachusetts for local news, sports, and weather. AM 1530, WVBF, Middleborough, Taunton.
Okay, we're back. You're listening to Stand Up Strong with Ed and Chuck, and on the line we have a call coming in, and
you're on the air with Ed and Chuck.
Hi, this is Harry from Operation Archangels.
How you doing, Harry?
Good. Now this is Harry Green, Operation Archangels. Now, can you explain what Operation Archangels is to the City of Brockton?
Yes, we were once a part of the worldwide organization known as the Guardian Angels. And what we did is we branched away in November 24th, 2015, and we're like a neighborhood watch to look out for the community. If we have to, we'll make a citizen's arrest. We also get together in a lot of community events, such as the winter blanket drives that we had for the homeless, graffiti cleanups, and we were also on the news for picking up a lot of the hypodermic needles that were in the kids' parks and school playgrounds.
Right, I was reading that article. So it was August 25th of this past year where you found, 50 or so needles?
More than 100.
More than 100, wow.
And what park was that?
That was the B.B. Russell Playground, but they're everywhere in Brockton.
And now also, when you're doing this, what happens? Has this ever happened that you found actually people using drugs or shooting up drugs while you're doing the cleanup?
Yeah, there was 2 females that were there when we were actually walking around with the photographer, and they just got done shooting up. And
now, what would you do on that? You say you can make a citizen's arrest, or did you call the police, or?
Well, what we usually would do is if they were ODing, we carry Narcan, but they were fine. They were able to walk away. They were able to stand up. They weren't falling over and nodding off.
Okay. And now, what made you start something like this in Brockton?
Or to break away from the original.
Break away.
Basically, we broke away because with the social media growing, you had to really be careful what you put on Facebook. And the founder of the Guardian Angels was coming down hard on the members of what they were posting on Facebook, Twitter. And we just really didn't want the pressure. We needed to start clean. So we broke away. I wanted to continue to help the people in Brockton, so that's why I started this up. We just got our nonprofit title, as a matter of fact, so we are a nonprofit organization now.
And you also mentioned that you do blanket drives or the drives like that. Do you have one coming up, or?
We had one last January. As a matter of fact, we were up there last night. We did see a homeless person sleeping on the porch. We did give him a blanket and a pillow that one of the citizens of Brockton did donate to us.
Where can we, or how do we go about giving you things to, donating things to you to donate?
You can contact me and I'll come to you.
Oh, cool. All right. So, and then is it just blankets and pillows, or can we, like, winter coats or gloves?
Winter coats, hats,
sweatshirts,
boots, pants, shirts, scarves, canned goods, too.
Is there a number people can call who are listening,
or an email,
or email, or somehow be able to contact you?
Yeah, they can call me at 508-408-3468.
Okay. And what are some of the issues that you would look for mainly? I mean, are you looking just for all crime, or is there something that would catch your interest that you're looking out for the city of Brockton?
It's all crime, but lately it's been drugs, heroin, mainly a lot of fights, a lot of fist fights, especially in the summertime in the downtown area.
A question on the citizen's arrest. Now, how does that work? So say if you were, you stumble upon an argument or a scuffle in the downtown area, how do you go about breaking that out safely? Because I know that you're a weapons-free volunteer organization. Yeah. How do you keep yourself safe by helping others stay safe?
We try to diffuse the situation. We do carry handcuffs, but that's always the last resort. We don't use the handcuffs unless it's a major felony and someone's life or the lives of others are at risk.
Okay. And so diffusing the situation, you would just kind of getting in between, breaking it up, talking to them, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And sometimes it can be very nasty. Sometimes they don't care and they continue to fist fight. And we got to really be careful.
Is that when you step back and you contact the police, or is there a certain, do you have a color-coded level? So like you're green, you're at yellow. When it starts to get towards red, do you just call the cops?
Yes, we have one person that's the designated person for the night to call it in. Usually I'll use a code word and they'll step back. They'll get on the phone to call the police.
Okay.
And how many members do you have at Brockton?
Right now, 6.
6, okay.
How would somebody go about expressing interest, or is there qualifications, or how could somebody volunteer with you?
There's no qualifications. We just ask for a few good men and women. The only thing that we ask for is we don't do a background check, but we do ask that people have no major felonies on their criminal record.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a training course that people have to take?
Yes, there's a 90-day probation period.
Okay. And what are the things that they would have to do during the probation period to make it through?
We do train in martial arts, and they just have to come on patrol. They have to be punctual for patrol.
And is this every night or certain nights of the week?
It does switch up. Sometimes we do day patrols, a lot of times at night on the weekends.
Okay. And how many hours would it be at night, or do you all work together or split up your shifts?
Usually we work together. Sometimes if there's a lot of things happening, we will split up. As far as how many hours, it all depends on the situation.
And now, you might have mentioned it, and I just didn't catch it. How long has this organization been going?
Since November 24th, 2015.
Okay. And you're the one that started it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what are some of the other things that you see that citizens should be watching out for that they might not notice, but as you've been doing it for a year, almost 3 years, that you would catch?
A lot of suspicious behavior, panhandling. I know a lot of people in the downtown area, they'll actually sit on random people's porches to shoot up, smoke crack. I know there was an issue on Hereford Street where a resident came out and did ask us to watch over their property for that reason.
Do you have, say, like a schedule of where you're going to be on what days, or do people call and then ask you to kind of watch over their neighborhood?
It's happened. Usually they catch us while we're up there.
Oh, okay.
Do you do a random schedule of different areas, or are they set up to you be in a certain area at a certain time?
Usually what we do is before patrol, we usually discuss like certain key areas to watch out for. Usually we start off in the downtown area, and then we separate and maybe go to like the north end of Brockton or the south end.
Have you had any issues with, being a city, we do have issues with gangs and like not. Have you had any issues with them in the past where they may have threatened you or?
Yes, as guardian angels we have, yes.
Okay.
But whereas, now separate for a year or more as Operation Archangels, is there less pushback?
Yeah, we haven't really ran into that problem yet.
That's good. Now, so late January, you had an episode on Hereford Street. Now, I saw on your page, on your Facebook page, that when you post up, they left instantly. Now, what do you do? Each take a corner of the street, or you just kind of, I don't know, linger?
We actually had permission to go on that resident's property, and we just stood right next to them, and they packed up all this stuff, and they left.
Good. See? So it sounds really effective.
It sounds like a citizens patrol.
Yep.
Now, one of the other questions I was thinking about, in terms of neighborhood watch, I always see the signs, but I never really see and or hear of neighborhoods actually getting together and then doing a thing. Do you work with some people? Do people actually partake in the neighborhood watch, or is that sign just kind of like a deterrent?
When I was a kid, I used to know all my neighbors. It seems now nobody gets together with the neighbors. They don't really know who or what they're about, and I haven't really seen any neighborhood watches.
Now, do you work with, and he's going to kill me, Officer Bill, I want to say Geary, but I know I'm not pronouncing, who's the police liaison of the neighborhood watch?
Oh, Officer Bill Healy. Yeah.
Healy. Yeah, close.
Yeah. And do you do any work with him, or do you meet with him when they are having neighborhood watches?
I have sent him in tips in the past when we were guardian angels.
Okay. But nothing since then?
Nothing since then, no.
So is there always kind of welcomed open line of communication between you and the police? Like they understand what you're doing and they appreciate, the efforts, however many you put in a week. But is that kind of like are you guys partners, kind of?
Yeah, a lot of the police do respect what we're doing. A lot of them just actually think we're crazy, and they don't think it's a good idea. They think it's very dangerous.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that, but then at the same time, I mean, that's great what you're doing.
Now, in your organization, you said there's 6 members. Do you try to recruit people and go out and ask people to help out, or do you just wait for them to contact you?
We do recruit. We have handed out flyers in the past. I also try to recruit on Facebook. I know usually Facebook is where it's at. Everybody wakes up in the morning, they go on Facebook, they see what we're doing. Sometimes people will call me and asking for information on how to join.
Okay. And again, we're going to have to go to break soon, but why don't you give us your number? Let the people know and what you're basically there to do.
My phone number is 508-408-3468, and we're basically here to keep the streets of Brockton safe. We also have a Boston chapter that we started, so if anyone's in the Boston area, they can hit up the Boston chapter of Operation Archangels on Facebook to join the chapter out there.
Okay. And that we're going to have to take a quick break right now. We're going to be right back. Harry Green, thank you for calling in, and you're always welcome to let us know if you're having any events that you're trying to raise that, help people who need the blankets or things in the summer or whatever you're doing. You're always welcome to call in.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. You're listening to Stand Up Strong with Ed and Chuck. We'll be right back after this break. And right now, we're going to have Brianna Wu call in today. And she has decided to run for the 8th Congressional District here in Massachusetts as U.S. representative. We'll be right back after this.
Don't forget, you can call in and join the conversation, 508-822-1106 here on WVBF 1530 AM. Do you have cast iron furniture, metal fences, or custom-made aluminum furniture that is still usable but needs a little TLC and extra care? Then you need someone with a great reputation in over 32 years in the welding business. You need All Weather Welding Company. Based out of Southeastern, Peter Michelson of All Weather Welding Company has the know-how and has worked on projects such as the Pavilion in Boston, the Dunkin' Donuts Warehouse, the Food Service Cisco,
the Xfinity Performing Arts Center, as well as local businesses and homes throughout the South Shore. They specialize in rims, chairs, custom-made aluminum furniture, metal gates, window grates, and so much more. All Weather Welding Company is the only certified portable welding service that is advertised in this area. No job is too small, and all his work is guaranteed. If you think it's broken, call All Weather Welding Company at 508-238-8595. That's 508-238-8595. Mention this ad and receive a free welding rod.
Check it out, it's the Terminator. Hey, when'd you get back, huh?
Did you have to shoot anyone? Why are you so distant? Are you not happy to see me?
So what's the deal? You gonna get a job now or what?
Why are you being so jumpy? Put all that stuff behind you, okay?
No one knows what it's like to come back from Iraq or Afghanistan unless they were there. Join other veterans at communityofveterans.org because we know where you're coming from. Brought to you by Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America and the Ad Council.
Considering building a new home, adding an addition, or renovating your existing house? BTA Building and Remodeling of Abington can save you time, money, and frustration. BTA is a team of highly skilled professionals who understand just how important your project is to you. From site-built homes, custom modular homes, to in-law suites and additions, they'll treat your project with the time and effort it takes to do the job right. Before you choose a builder, you owe it to yourself to visit btadevelopment.com and learn more.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. It's kind of like an elephant is on my chest. I feel like I'm choking. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor, because even one attack is one too many.
I feel like a fish with no water.
Brought to you by the EPA and the Ad Council.
Okay, we're back. You're listening to Stand Up Strong with Ed and Chuck, and we're coming down to the final wire. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we're going to have so much more. Excuse me. Now, some of you may have heard that we have a very special event tomorrow in 25 hours.
Oh, my goodness. A special event?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Let's see. Is it Christmas?
No, we already had Christmas.
Nope. Flag Day.
No, not even close. Cold.
Would it be the Super Bowl?
The Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good guess. All right, Super Bowl.
And so we're talking about 25 hours and 20 minutes.
So it's starting around, what, 6:40?
I think it's 6:40.
6:40, yeah. You know what I always wanted to know? What is with the start times? They're just so kind of not,
Yeah, it has to do with commercials.
Oh, with commercials? Yeah, it must be. So,
and we'll be seeing a lot of new commercials, so that's always a good thing.
Which is always good because, anything can top that scary one they had with the puppy monkey baby thing. Oh, yes. Remember that? That was just...
That disgusted me.
Yeah, it was a creepy thing. And then they come out, so these are Monster energy drinks or whatnot. Yeah. And then they have people suing. They have people dying because they're drinking too many in a day.
Right.
I was talking to a gentleman just this past week who is on a 2-week probation thing with his doctor because all he did was he was a waiter. And so he would eat one meal a day pretty much, like, something like a burger and fries for lunch. Hear me out on this. Which is already kind of not healthy. And then he'd wake up, have an energy drink. Then he'd have an energy drink around mid-shift. And then one towards the night. And then he'd go out after work. So it wasn't, with the exception of the going out to work, his diet wasn't that great. But the energy drinks, his doctor was saying, was really messing with his heart. Like his blood pressure was crazy.
Drink
scary
a glass
stuff.
of orange juice in there.
Yeah, there you go, in your daily vitamins. But yeah, the puppy monkey baby was by far, I think, one of the scariest, most awkward commercials they had.
It is, and though hopefully we'll see Clydesdales again. You know.
Oh, yeah.
That's been a thing since day one of. But you know, this one I think, you know, of course everybody hates the Patriots because it's a dynasty. Everybody hates. You know, who like, unless you're from Dallas in the '80s or Pittsburgh in the '70s. 90s with San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Unless you were from those cities, who liked them? You hated them all. I mean, the worst thing to do is when they nicknamed Dallas the America's team. But you have to, if the Patriots win tomorrow, it's not only we're a dynasty, we're going to be almost a 2-decade dynasty. And I don't think that's been seen ever in any time during pro football.
Yeah, so it'd be record 5 times. I think that's the first
5
time, right?
Super Bowls in
9 years?
17 years. 2001 to today,
okay.
16 years. So, I mean, this would really, and as much as you go on about Roger Goodell, look, he's there to represent the owners. Don't say fire Roger Goodell. The owners love him. No one gets paid $44 million a year if you aren't doing the job they want you to do. Though I think he's a douchebag, but that's my opinion. But it's going to be a great game. And Chuck, you got any plans for
the big game?
Yeah.
Geez, it's a busy day for me, and I'm trying to see. I have to give up one thing in the morning in order to make it back, I think, in time. So. But, you know, I'll be probably at my house. Well, actually, my friends who I haven't seen in, well, the people from marching band back at Bridgewater State, when they had a marching band, they get together all the time. But I might swing by there real quick. But it's kind of awkward because everybody's got kids except for me, so I'm knee-deep in little hellions running around.
Oh, there you go.
But, you know, I might, you know, just stay at home and watch it and kick back and relax.
Yeah. I think I'll hit one of our local establishments.
Yeah.
And watch it there, at least the first half.
Yeah, at least the first half.
I talk to friends, and they're saying, oh, I'm going here, I'm going there. So I'll probably go to one of our local establishments in Brockton, because when you live in Brockton, why do you have to go anywhere else?
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't leave Brockton. If I didn't work in Weymouth, I wouldn't leave Brockton. There's just so much to do.
Yeah.
And but it's going to be a great game, and of course, for 2 reasons. Being a Patriots fan, I want them to see. But I want to see people tie themselves up knots trying to explain that the Patriots aren't a generational dynasty. Generational is usually 20 to 25 years.
So
we are so close to that.
Who is the generational? The Cowboys?
I don't even think that, because they were big in the 80s, but no. I mean,
49ers.
You've nope. They were in the 90s and died out in the 2000s. Maybe the 49ers would be the closest, but I think we're looking at, again, history being made tomorrow if the Patriots win, and it looks good. Never count out any team.
That's true.
Remember, the New England Patriots were the 14-point underdog when they played the Rams.
And look what happened there.
And they lost on a field goal at the final seconds of the game.
Yep.
And that turned it around for New England sports, as we know. But, Chuck, anything you would like to bring up?
You know, the excitement of the Super Bowl is cool. And I think I myself, never a big, huge football fan. I have always tend to catch the Super Bowl. Most of them, I think, was spent working in the restaurant business. But, you know, as a bartender, the TV was right there anyway. So that was exciting. I remember the 49ers. I believe they won once, early 90s. And I had a cousin who was the kicker, or the backup kicker. But they played on that team. And that's my original claim to fame. But it's cool because they're even delaying schools in some systems on Monday for the Super Bowl. But all right,
I wish I could go to work late.
You're on the air with Ed and Chuck.
Hi, Ed. This is Brianna Wu.
Hi, Brianna.
Brianna Wu, we have on the line. Now, for people who haven't heard, Brianna Wu announced her candidacy for the 8th Congressional District here in Massachusetts. And now, You're running in the primary now. Once everything works, are you running against as a Democrat?
Yes. I'm running as a Democrat, and I am just really excited to go up against Stephen Lynch and really bring a kind of bring a progressive voice to our party. I don't think that's really existing over in District 8 right now.
Now, why don't you let people talk about your past? I mean, I know a little about you because I read about, even though I'm now 54 years old, I understood what Gamergate was.
Sure.
And your involvement. And, as I was reading it, you had some people on the right were just saying, you had just had some little adolescent boys who were sitting in their mother's basement insulting you, but it was a whole lot deeper than that.
Yes, it really was. For people out there that don't know, I'm a software engineer, and I run my own studio here in Boston. We employ a lot of women in my game studio. I think most people can look at video games and tell that we don't represent women super well. I think everyone's kind of familiar with that chainmail bikini kind of protagonist that we have.
Yes, I've seen the pictures in Grand Theft Auto many times.
Yes, absolutely. So, long story short, Gamergate is a backlash against women in the technology industry, trying to bring our voice to the game industry. Because if you hire women to work on games, they don't look like the games we get today. And there's basically, what is kind of a hate group in the game industry that has really been going after women in horrible ways. I've had so many death threats. They've made two different TV shows about them, one of them Law and Order. I've been run out of my home. I've had my studio's financials targeted. I've gotten rape threats just constantly. I spoke at Harvard today, and we had to sweep the area for bombs and look around before we even started. So, this isn't just people telling you they don't like you on the internet. It's much, much more serious.
And as you're saying that they're giving threats, is this like a certain group that's going after you, or just?
Yes, it's it's Gamergate. They're kind of this. The best way I can describe them is they're kind of the KKK of the video game industry, and instead of wanting to intimidate black people, they want to intimidate women and other minorities in the game industry. So it's a very serious group.
I was reading in I guess some text on a conference that you did, an alt conference in 2015, and I was reading it. It's amazing that even yourself in 2015 you had 106 death threats, and you were constantly talking to people in the FBI.
Yeah,
isn't that kind of overkill for video games?
Yes, I mean there's a discussion that can be had that's adult about censorship in the video game industry and how women should be portrayed. The issues we're discussing are completely out of proportion with the way Gamergate is acting. So absolutely it is. I've talked to the FBI constantly, Homeland Security constantly, and, long story short, I've become kind of a symbol for women in the technology industry that have kind of had enough and just want to have careers and be able to speak our minds like you can on the air here. So, part of why I'm running against Stephen Lynch is, I'm not known for sitting out fights. And I believe that with Donald Trump in the White House, it's really time for real progressives on deck. And I think we need candidates that will really stand up very strongly for a progressive agenda. Stephen Lynch, I don't consider him to be a Democrat. He's on the wrong side of many, many, many issues. And, I just don't think he speaks for modern Massachusetts.
And what are some of the issues that you have with him now? He's been a U.S. congressman. He runs on his being a union president 20 years ago.
Yep.
And he has those ties. Do you feel how are you going to break into that? Has he really been an advocate for, let's just say, unions right now? Because unions went from 27% in the 80s to about 11% now.
So, I I'm a software engineer, and in software engineering, we don't look at intent. We look at outcomes, right? So if I write code and that code crashes, I have to change it. So Stephen Lynch can say he supports unions, but if you look at the outcome, he has failed unions. And I have a plan for this. You know, in the tech industry, we are talking a lot about collective bargaining and kind of unionizing work in the tech and biotech industries, you know, two workforces that are really taken advantage of. So what I want to do is I want to broaden the labor pool and kind of move it from, you know, just unions and steel workers, you know, in unions. I want to expand that to tech and biotech and the game industry, because I think the only way unions are going to survive is if we kind of bring new people into the fold.
I have a question.
Yes.
Because you're like an iconic, almost, you know, symbol of the female power that is with the Women's March in Washington and all the other marches around the world. Is it? And then seeing what happened through, like, say, some incidents in July of 2014 and everything that happened, do you think that what are your opinion on the Women's March? And when you're running, do you think that some similar things, some similar threats might happen while you're running for office?
Oh, they're already happening. I mean, you know, it's just par for the course. You know, for me, it's just I'm numb to it at this point. You know, the fact is you can only have so many people tell you they're going to murder you before you kind of get broken by it, right? But the Women's March, I was there in D.C., and you know, it was nearly 1 million women marching, and it was just a deeply, deeply moving experience. And what I think we're seeing is women that have really been pushed too far with this last election. And I think we're going to, you know, basically get offline and stop tweeting about change and start running for office ourselves. So something my candidacy is really going to do is we're going to look for other women here in Massachusetts to recruit and support and fundraise with, and we want to see more women's voices in government. One last thing, you know, right now only 2 of our representatives are women here in Massachusetts, which is supposedly, you know, a very progressive state. The rest are white guys. And I just think we can do a little bit better than that. You know, I think that our nation is strongest when everyone has a voice.
Now, how are you going to fight the, the old party network that's out there that is automatically going to back Stephen Lynch?
I think that's a great question. You know, I'll tell you this. Hillary was my girl in the primary.
Yeah.
I didn't support Sanders. In the last 4 months, I really understand Sanders' frustration with the Democratic Party a lot more, because you're absolutely right. Like, the Democratic old guard is interested in protecting itself, and they are not particularly interested in having new blood in the system. So, you know, what we're going to do is, you know, we're going to try to build up those relationships and try to ask them to give us a fair shot. And, you know, where they won't work with us, we will build up our own operation to get out voters.
Okay, we're going to have to take a quick break right now. Can you stick around? We really want to keep you on and talking.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're listening to Brianna Wu, who is running in the primary once it comes up against Stephen Lynch. So we're going to take a quick break right now. We're going to be right back after this. You're listening to Stand Up Strong with Ed and Chuck. Chuck's on the other mic, and you can just call me Smokey Jones.
That's right.
Do you have cast iron furniture, metal fences, or custom-made aluminum furniture that is still usable but needs a little TLC and extra care? Then you need someone with a great reputation in over 32 years in the welding business. You need All Weather Welding Company. Based out of Southeastern, Peter Michelson of All Weather Welding Company has the know-how and has worked on projects such as the Pavilion in Boston, the Dunkin' Donuts Warehouse, the Food Service Cisco, the Xfinity Performing Arts Center, as well as local businesses and homes throughout the South Shore. They specialize in rims, chairs, custom-made aluminum furniture, metal gates, window grates, and so much more. All Weather Welding Company is the only certified portable welding service that is advertised in this area. No job is too small, and all his work is guaranteed. If you think it's broken, call All Weather Welding Company at 508-238-8595. That's 508-238-8595. Mention this ad and receive a free welding rod.
Hi, this is Jim Larkin. Hope you can join me every Sunday from noon to 2 o'clock here on WVBF, the Sounds of the Emerald Isle. We'll have some great Irish music, some folk, traditional, country, and contemporary, and sometimes some live singers in the studio. And to make you laugh, some Irish comedy. That's Sundays from noon to 2 right here on WVBF, 1530 Taunton, Middleborough, and on the internet at hometowntalkradio.com.
Considering building a new home, adding an addition, or renovating your existing house? BTA Building and Remodeling of Abington can save you time, money, and frustration. BTA is a team of highly skilled professionals who understand just how important your project is to you. From site-built homes, custom modular homes, to in-law suites and additions, they'll treat your project with the time and effort it takes to do the job right. Before you choose a builder, you owe it to yourself to visit btadevelopment.com and learn more.
1530 WVBF Talk Radio.
All right, we're back. You're listening to Stand Up Strong with Ed and Chuck. On the line, we have Brianna Wu, who is going to run for U.S. Congressman in the 2018 election against Stephen Lynch. Brianna, you still there?
I'm still here, of course.
Okay, good. Now, the next question I would ask, where are you different from Stephen Lynch? I know, talking to him in the past, he is not really high up on what I like to call women's self-determination.
Yes. Stephen Lynch, he has this pattern of being on the wrong side of every single issue. Something I believe very strongly is, women's rights are under attack all across this country. I think when, the President of the United States is bragging about sexual assault, I think that's really a warning call. Stephen Lynch, he's been very against women's reproductive health care access for his entire career. And, there's this pattern with him. When it hits a point where, the mood changes, then magically Stephen Lynch says he feels differently about this. So it's happened with women's reproductive access. He had this quote in the Boston Globe a few months ago, and his quote was, "I support Roe versus Wade, I guess." And it's just, he's not someone that really, he's someone very clearly that is happy to take the votes of women, but he's not someone that's going to really stand up for us. And, I feel very, very strongly about women's rights, but beyond that, I think District 8 needs a fighter. I think we need someone that's really serious about building up the economy in that district and building up new kinds of jobs in tech and biotech, and doesn't want to coast by and not get anything done. I think it's so telling that Stephen Lynch, one of his top issues is airport noise out of Logan, and we're coming up on years of him allegedly working on this, and nothing has been done. He just doesn't seem like a leader.
And what are some of the other issues that you differ with him? We just mentioned a couple, but are there any others that you think, not just for women, but for just the middle class in general?
Absolutely. I think that generally speaking, Stephen Lynch is someone that I was talking to a reporter the other day, and I'm not going to give this reporter's name, but he was saying, it kind of seems to me like Stephen Lynch is kind of a product of the 80s and 90s, and he's not really tuned into the way the world works today. And this is a major reporter here in Boston, and I really agreed with that. I think that Stephen Lynch doesn't understand the technology industry. I think that he doesn't understand the biotech industry, which is just huge here in Boston. More than that, I think there are also these social issues that he just doesn't have a clue on. Look at Donald Trump and his Muslim ban, which happened last weekend. I was out there at Copley, there were thousands and thousands and thousands of people protesting. And Stephen Lynch was completely silent on that for days. So, when you have hate targeted at people that live in your district and you don't speak up for them, I think that's just failing those people.
And and I think I'm getting you confused. Another story. There's the editor at Breitbart, Milo
Yiannopoulos. Yeah.
Yiannopoulos. Now, didn't you have a little row with him? Am I remembering that correctly?
He's gone after me like he went after a lot of women during Gamergate, but I've never really had a huge thing with him. He's basically gone after many feminist women. So I definitely have spoken about the need to get him banned from Twitter for his abusive behavior, and I was very happy to see that finally happened.
Okay, that was what I was reading about. So.
Yes.
And, another thing is, when you got, it's not here in, it's everywhere. There are people who think like this in Massachusetts. But mainly when you go down to certain states where you got, State Senator Billy Bob Boobed, who thinks, women shouldn't have the right to vote because they don't make the right decisions because they don't agree with them. How are you going to deal with that? And because you're going to get that on the campaign trail, even around here.
Well, I would say this. I grew up in Mississippi, and I am very, very proud of that. So, I think that I have a background in kind of making bridges with those kinds of people because I grew up in such a conservative state. Something I really believe in is to get respect, you have to give respect. So if you look at my Twitter, my public speaking, and things that I write, I don't insult people like that personally. So I think you have to kind of find common ground wherever you can. And, when I'm serving as your congresswoman, that's how I'm going to operate.
And now, how long have you lived in Massachusetts?
My husband was part of the cratering economy in 2008. So, he lost his job at a law firm of over a decade. And, he moved to Novartis here in, over in Cambridge. So it's been, we were talking just yesterday. It's coming up on a decade now almost.
And, it's unfortunate. We were talking about this because being from Brockton, we've been having our issues and how everything is just hometown voting. As you're saying, you're here for a decade. I'm sorry, 2 decades, was it?
One
decade. 1 decade, under a decade.
Yeah. You're going to run into, people, and I've seen it here. I've seen strong union people, and I say this every time on the show if you ever listen. When I start talking about voting, you have strong union people who vote for the most virulent anti-union person because they went to high school with them 30 years ago, or they were kids' sports coach. I've seen people who were put on the ballot and make it into the primaries because their father was the former mayor or their sister was on the city council. You're going to run into that provincialism. How are you going to get around that?
Well, I think the way you do it is with being very real with voters. And let me tell you what I mean by that. If I could say anything about Donald Trump that I respect, it's that, he's not somebody that hides behind a PR person. Like what you see on the campaign trail is what you get. Like Donald Trump, there is no Donald Trump beyond that. And, what I want to do out there with voters is I want to bring a really strong progressive voice to Massachusetts. And I want to give people that are thinking a little bit more deeply than I went to high school with this guy. I want to give those people a candidate they can feel excited about voting for. Look at Elizabeth Warren here in Massachusetts. You have people that absolutely love her and will do, really work hard for her during elections. That's exactly what I want to do. So I'm going to counter that kind of provincialism by being a very strong, unapologetic voice for real progressive issues. And my hope is that we'll be able to energize people that just respond to honesty.
Now, most people, and I've been saying this for years, they vote on emotion, not on logic.
Sure.
And Elizabeth Warren understood that. I mean, It was when she ran, it was who? And as much as people try to get, she got paid $350,000 working for Harvard, my reply is, well, that's between her and her boss. And,
yep.
But how are you going to gear your campaign to get the emotional aspect out, along with the logic aspect?
Well, I would say this. I hate to toot my own horn, but I am a really well-known person in the tech industry. And the reason I'm really well known is because I speak with so much passion and openness about what women face, about what LGBT people face, what people of color face. By coming out there and just being unapologetic, people, they get fired up, right? It's like if you're at a Red Sox game and David Ortiz hits a homer, it's just like you want to root for that. So, I would say I'm not unskilled at getting people excited about change from my work in the game industry. And I'm going to bring that exact same feeling over to, basically this race for Congress.
I'm already fired up and ready to go.
Yeah.
And just going on, in Massachusetts, and especially the area that you're going to be covering, is a lot of seaport towns, a lot of fishing areas.
Sure.
What are some of your ideas of that? Because that's very big here in Massachusetts, being on the seaport, and we do have the lobster fishermen and other types who are having issues. What are some of the ideas you have for them? Especially being maybe high tech, maybe even try to help them change.
Sure. I think if you are loving the industry that you're in, you should stay there. I think the biggest focus for anyone serving the people in District 8 has got to be, rising wages. I think that's got to be the biggest thing. Like, you look at inflation and how that's affected people across the country. Like, wages have barely risen in contrast to inflation since the 80s. So I think what we've got to do is really look at what is not working with the economy in that state. And this is going to get me some fire from the left, but, to me, the biggest problem I see is I see our state that by some estimates we spend 24% of our money on education. Great. That's awesome. I 100% support that. We will not cut a penny of it. That's great. But what I don't see on the other side is the investment in jobs and infrastructure. So what I personally see is, companies people educated here in Massachusetts and then being forced to leave. My own game studio, we are really taxed at an extremely high rate for a startup here in Massachusetts. So what I want to do is look at how we can basically make Massachusetts more business friendly and how we can attract that new kind of talent into District 8.
And, as you were talking about wages, one of the things you're going to hear mainly is when wages go up, inflation matches that.
Yep.
You buy that, or how are you going to counter that?
I don't buy that at all. I know it's an argument, and there's all sorts of. Just forgive me for speaking honestly. There's a lot of propaganda out there to convince working people that policies that are obviously better for them are not better for them. So I think that's crap. So
what are some of the things you want to say about improving wages and how it's going to help just the regular person?
Well, it depends on what kind of industry they're in, right? Like, I think one of the really big things we've got to look at is attracting more jobs to the region. I think job retraining programs, I've looked at a lot of data that shows this is something that works. So, I think that overall we're going to have to really get out there and look at what is going on with the economy for these people. So, it could be tax breaks to bring businesses there. It could be, middle-class tax cuts, But a lot of what you're talking about, just to be really honest, that is more on the state level. So if you're looking at the race for Congress, what I have access to as your congresswoman is going to be more state funds. So, Stephen Lynch has been working for years on basically an infrastructure bill. I don't think he's really gotten that done. I will.
And, one of the big things that we have on the issues is that Now I completely lost my train of thought. So let me go to another question because it will appear in my my cold addled head.
Do you have that cold too? I've got that cold today too.
Yeah,
So.
I bought it off Amazon and I'm very upset about it.
You got to watch out with them.
There you go.
It might have been a return from somebody else.
There you go. And as you're talking about training and education, one of the things we're watching is the most unqualified person who is going to be running our education program throughout the United States. And if you look at Michigan, now, one of the big things, because we had the fight here, and you remember, is for or against private corporate schools getting public money.
Yep.
Now, she's big on that, and we've watched, and if you read about Michigan, their school system went from being mainly competent to failing.
Yeah.
As a senator, as a
congresswoman, yes.
Congresswoman, I'm sorry, person. Again, it's the cold. What are you going to now? For one, are you for these private institutions collecting money, the starter school? And two, what are you going to do to keep the education growing instead of retreating the way it has had been?
So, this is where I think my background is really helpful, right? Unlike a lot of public servants, I didn't go to Harvard. I went to public school in Mississippi, and I attended the University of Mississippi. I went to public school, and I understand the value that brings. I think sometimes we talk about education, and I think sometimes we get a really myopic view and think education is just about what you read in books. It's not. It's about the people that you meet all around you. In 7th grade, there was a special needs classroom right across from my 7th grade homeroom. And, I started meeting people with disabilities. And that was my first exposure to that and really understanding the support that we needed to give people on the autism spectrum. So, as an engineer, I am always willing to look at any idea and give it a fair shake. Engineers, we have this personality trait where we don't care where an idea comes from. We care if it solves the problem at hand. At the same time, every piece of data I've looked at on charter schools, which basically funnel money from public institutions to private institutions, I've never seen anything that shows it leads to a really clear, better educational outcome. In fact, it kind of allows schools to kick out any student that doesn't fit with their vision. So I am tremendously skeptical about that. And I'm very, very against DeVos, being our Secretary of Education, and I'm really troubled by that trend we're seeing.
And unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be a 50-50 vote.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have
Mike Pence,
a religious zealot, who's going to make a decision up there, unfortunately.
I really worry about those kids. I think the most terrible thing she said in her confirmation hearing was not having a clue about disabilities. One out of 72 kids out there is on the autism spectrum. And I think people don't know this, but there are some of the best programmers in the tech industry are on the autism spectrum. And the idea about not educating these kids or not caring about them, we would lose some of our best minds if that happened. It's just unconscionable to me.
You never know where you're going to find the next genius. Do you have anything you want to do to help people going into the next level, getting into college without, breaking their pockets or putting in the debt for, 50 years when they graduate?
That's such a good question. I think it's a real crisis. I remember I went to college in the late 90s, and I remember Ole Miss, the school I went to, was $4,000 a semester, which seemed like a lot back then, and it's nothing today, right? I don't think we get ahead when you're asking young people to basically buy a house before they're really sure what they want to do for a living. It's just simply unconscionable. I really liked Hillary Clinton's plan that she put forward during the election. I also liked Bernie Sanders' plan. So, I am for a very aggressive approach to education. And, the argument here, it's not just it's not just moral, it's also economic. Education is a force multiplier with the economy. I would not be the engineer I am today if I hadn't, had so many classes in schools. So I think it's a real crisis and one of their biggest priorities to solve.
Now, we have about a minute left. I want to ask you just something out of the blue. What is your feeling on the fairness doctrine?
The fairness doctrine, talking about how both it was the old thing where if you had a Republican view on the air, you also had to have a Democratic view on the air?
Yes. Right, which was by signing statement, or I should say executive decision, by Ronald Reagan getting rid of it.
Yep, I remember that. I was very young, but I do remember that.
Same thing.
I think that, today the mediascape is so fragmented, and I think TV news is just less and less important. So, I think the fairness doctrine is important, and I would definitely bring it back. But I think the real axis of, conflict with misinformation out there is clearly online. It troubles me on both the right and the left how many people I see tweeting articles that haven't been fact-checked or from really, non-reputable sources. And part of that is economic. Like, subscription to the New York Times and the Washington Post is pretty expensive, right? Mm-hmm. But I think we really have a crisis because, this Kellyanne Conway phenomena of alternate facts, right? Like, I think all of us have our own alternate facts nowadays, something that's a lot more pernicious on the right, and I think it makes it really hard to solve problems when we're living in two different universes.
Yeah, but she is entertaining.
She's, well, I don't think that has much to do with news, so I don't think they should interview her.
Okay, so we have to go. Brianna, thank you for being on. Let us know, and we're going to keep in touch with you because we want to have you on the show again. We want to talk to you about how you're hitting the pavement and who you're meeting.
Absolutely. I'd love to do that. And if your listeners want to find out more about my campaign, they can go to BriannaWu2018.com.
All right. And you can like her on Facebook.
You can. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was Brianna Wu, who's running for the 8th Congressional District against Stephen Lynch. So that's going to be an interesting race. Well, we got to go. We went a little over, but we had some great people today. We'll see you next week. If you have any calls, call in then. You're listening to Stand Up Strong with Ed and Chuck. I'm Mr. Cigarettes, and I'm signing off.
And I'm not. Have a great weekend, everybody. Do a good turn daily.
You are listening to the voice of Southeastern Massachusetts for local news, sports, and weather. AM 1530, WVBF, Middleborough, Taunton.